What's up, y'all? So, let's talk about it. If you go out of town with your significant other, regardless to you having an argument or whatever you have going on, and you're somewhere, you're not in your safe space, you're not in your hometown, you're not where you live at, I don't care. I'm not going to leave him. So the young lady that went out of town on a cabin trip with her boyfriend finally made a post. I'm going to put it on the screen. She's saying how much she loved him. Regardless to what she's saying, it's not adding up and it's not making sense because you're not telling what happened that night. Y'all were never supposed to leave each other. So if he asked you to put him out, you were supposed to keep going back to that hotel room. Why wasn't his family contacted? If you seen the sirens going towards where you dropped him off at, why you don't have a legitimate story to tell the family? Justice for Dra. This is an active investigation, and I hope and pray that they lock her ass up. Happy Sunday.
There's a sound that grief makes when it turns into rage. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind where a mother sits in front of a camera and says the 3 words that break a family forever. I'm the mama. Not screaming it, whispering it, like a threat wrapped in love. And somewhere in the 39 days since Tyrone Davis Jr. died in a hospital bed in Gainesville, that sound became the soundtrack to a war nobody saw coming. Because here's what nobody tells you about tragedy. It doesn't just take the person who died. It takes everyone who loved them and forces them to choose sides in a battle where the only prize is the right to say whose grief matters more. We've all watched families fracture. That slow-motion collapse, when someone dies and suddenly everyone who showed up to the funeral stops showing up for each other. For most families, it's about money or old resentments or who gets grandma's china. But what happens when the fracture isn't about inheritance? It's about innocence. What happens when one side of the family is screaming for justice and the other side is screaming for peace, and both sides believe they're honoring the same dead man? What happens when a 21-year-old cousin films himself on a Sunday afternoon calling out his own aunt, his own mother, his own blood? Not because he doesn't love his dead cousin, but because he thinks the people demanding justice are destroying the one person who actually gave birth to the victim. This case lives in that impossible space between loyalty and truth, between a mother's silence and an aunt's megaphone, between a girlfriend who says she has nothing left to tell and a family that says her silence proves her guilt. And the distance between them? It's the distance between a hospital room where everyone stood around a dying man and a social media war where that same man's name is being used as ammunition by people who all claim to love him most. December 25th, 2024. Christmas morning. While you were opening presents or sleeping in or pretending to care about the sweater your aunt bought you, someone's phone rang. The kind of call that splits your life into before and after. Tyrone Davis Jr.'s mother, Renee, got word that her 35-year-old son was in a hospital in Gainesville, Florida, brain dead. Not injured, not critical, brain dead. The kind of medical term that means the person you're looking at is already gone, even though their heart's still beating. And in the confusion of that moment, in the chaos of trying to understand how a Christmas getaway to a cabin turned into a death notification, Renee made a decision that would later be used as evidence of a conspiracy. She called Tyrone's best friend Jason and told him to get in the car. She didn't call Tyrone's father's side of the family. She didn't call his Aunt Natasha. She didn't call his cousin Natalie. She picked up her son's best friend and drove to Gainesville to see her dying child. And that decision, that single, grief-soaked decision made in the worst moment of her life, would become the thing that tore this family apart. Wait, I need to back up because this detail changes everything. While Renee and Jason were driving to that hospital, while they were trying to process what brain dead actually means, Tyrone's girlfriend Lulu was already there. She'd been there when the ambulance arrived. She'd been there when they loaded him onto the stretcher. She'd been there for all of it. And according to Jason, the best friend who's now defending himself against accusations he never saw coming, Lulu didn't say a word to him when he walked into that hospital. Not hello, not I'm sorry, not thank you for coming. She talked to Tyrone's mother.
She talked to his sisters.
But Jason, the man Tyrone called his brother, the man who'd been there through every loss Jason had suffered, Lulu looked right through him like he was a ghost visiting a haunting he had no business attending. And then she said something that, depending on who you believe, is either completely innocent or the most damning detail in this entire case. She told Tyrone's mother she was leaving the hospital to go back to the cabin to get their things. Think about that for a second. Your boyfriend is brain dead in a hospital bed. His family is gathering. His best friend just walked in. And you announce you're leaving to go get luggage. Now, maybe that's shock. Maybe that's practicality. Maybe when your world is ending, your brain latches onto the one task you can actually complete. Pack the suitcase, grab the shoes, return the rental. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the move someone makes when they need to go back to a scene before anyone else gets there. Maybe it's the move someone makes when there's something at that cabin that can't be there when the police show up. I'm not saying which one is true. I'm saying this is the detail that split Tyrone's family into two armies that will never make peace. Here's what we know about Tyrone Davis Jr. before he became a hashtag, before he became a debate, before his name became ammunition in a family war. He was the kind of man who pulled a gun at his own surprise party, not to hurt anyone, but because he hated surprises that much. He was the kind of friend who showed up when you called, even if you called at 3 a.m., even if you called from jail, even if you called just because you needed to hear a voice that gave a damn. His best friend Jason says it plainly. He's all I had left. Not one of the people I had left.
All.
The only person who said good morning. The only person who said I love you. The only person who made Jason feel like he mattered in a world that kept taking people away from him. Tyrone had lost his father. He'd lost friends. He'd lost people the way you lose them in communities where violence is so common it stops shocking you and just starts haunting you. And through all of that, through every funeral and every grief spiral and every moment when giving up would have been easier, Tyrone was the one who stayed.
Who called.
Who showed up. And Lulu? She was his future. Or at least she thought she was. They weren't married, but she called herself his wife. They were planning a family, planning a life, planning all the things people plan when they think they have time. She's 33 years old with a bachelor's degree in science, and she wants you to know that because people keep saying her public statement sounds like it was written by ChatGPT, like a woman with an education couldn't possibly string together coherent sentences about the worst thing that ever happened to her. She loved him. Everyone agrees on that. Even the people who think she killed him admit she loved him. But here's the question that haunts this case. Can you love someone and still be the reason they die? Not intentionally, not with malice, but through a fight that went too far, a push that landed wrong, a moment of rage that you'd give anything to take back? This is where the story stops making sense, and I need you to pay attention because what happens next is the reason a family is at war. Lulu claims she told Tyrone's cousin Natalie everything. Everything. She says she had a full phone conversation while she was still in Gainesville, laid out the entire timeline, answered every question, gave Natalie the truth from start to finish. And Natalie, according to Lulu, ended that call by saying she needed a minute to process. That she'd call back. That she believed Lulu. Fast forward 39 days and Natalie is one of the loudest voices demanding justice, pushing the hashtag, questioning every word that comes out of Lulu's mouth, treating Lulu's grief like it's a performance instead of a real human experience of loss. So, what changed? What happened between that phone call where Natalie apparently believed her and the social media campaign where Natalie treats Lulu like a suspect? Did new evidence emerge? Did Natalie hear something that made her doubt the story? Or did the family pressure get too loud, the online mob get too vicious, the Aunt Natasha's voice get too powerful, and Natalie made the choice to switch sides because staying neutral felt like betrayal? Both of these things can't be true. Either Lulu told Natalie the truth and Natalie believed her, or Lulu is lying about that conversation and using it to make herself look cooperative. Yet both women are telling their versions of this story under the weight of unimaginable grief, and one of them is fundamentally misrepresenting reality. Remember this. It becomes critical in about 6 minutes when we get to the cousin who filmed himself destroying his own family on camera. Let me tell you about Jason's Christmas. December 25th, 2024. He's at a block party in Kansas City. We know this because he posted a video. Time-stamped, geotagged, the kind of digital evidence that makes alibis airtight. He's with friends. He's alive. He's nowhere near Gainesville, Florida. Nowhere near the cabin. Nowhere near whatever happened to Tyrone. And then his phone rings. Tyrone's mother. The conversation is short. Your best friend is in the hospital. Brain dead. Get ready. I'm picking you up. Jason doesn't ask questions. Doesn't call anyone else. Doesn't post about it. Just waits for Renee to pull up, gets in a car, and rides in silence for however many hours it takes to get from Kansas City to Gainesville. He's thinking his brother is dying. He's thinking he needs to say goodbye. He's thinking about every moment they shared, every loss they survived together, every time Tyrone showed up when Jason needed him. He is not thinking about the fact that this car ride, this simple act of being picked up by his dead friend's mother, is going to be used as evidence of a conspiracy theory that will destroy his reputation and leave him defending himself on Instagram Live to strangers who've already decided he's guilty of something. Because here's what happened after Tyrone died. The internet did what the internet does. It turned a tragedy into a true crime puzzle and decided everyone was a suspect. And Jason, who was just a friend showing up to say goodbye, became a character in a narrative he didn't write. People started saying he was at the cabin, that he was in the car when whatever happened to Tyrone happened, that Lulu called him, that he drove Lulu to Gainesville, that he knew something, saw something, did something. And the evidence for all of this? Absolutely nothing. Just speculation that turned into accusation that turned into fact in the minds of people who wanted this to be more complicated than a girlfriend and a cabin and a medical emergency nobody can explain. So Jason goes on Instagram Live to clear his name, and you can hear it in his voice, the exhaustion of having to defend your grief, of having to prove you love someone, of having to explain that no, you weren't there, no, you didn't know, no. You wouldn't betray your best friend for his girlfriend or for anyone else because that's not who you are, and if people actually knew Tyrone, they'd know he would never keep around a friend capable of that kind of betrayal. Jason's voice cracks when he talks about it.
He's all I had left.
Nobody tells me good morning. Nobody tells me they love me. Nobody. This is not the voice of a man hiding something. This is the voice of a man who lost the only person who made him feel less alone in the world, and now he has to convince strangers on the internet that his grief is real. And you know what the saddest part is? Even Tyrone's mother won't talk to him now. Renee, the woman who picked him up, who brought him to that hospital, who trusted him enough to have him there in her son's final moments, she's gone silent. Won't return his calls. Won't acknowledge him. And Jason doesn't understand why. He didn't do anything to her. Didn't do anything to Tyrone. Just showed up when asked, and now he's been erased from the family, like he never mattered at all. That's what this kind of grief does. It doesn't just take the person who died. It takes everyone in the blast radius and scrambles them so badly they can't recognize each other anymore. Now, let's talk about Lulu's statement, because this is where you need to decide what you believe. She posted a long, detailed explanation addressing everything. Why she's not screaming justice for Tyrone, why she won't engage with the conspiracy theories, why her silence isn't guilt but self-preservation. And people immediately said it sounded too polished, too perfect, too much like it was written by AI. So Lulu had to defend her own intelligence, had to remind people she has a bachelor's degree, had to point out that educated women are actually capable of writing coherent paragraphs about trauma without needing a chatbot to do it for them. Think about how insulting that is. Your boyfriend is dead. You're grieving. You finally sit down and write out your side of the story, and the response isn't compassion or even legitimate questions. It's accusations that you're not smart enough to have written your own words. Here's what Lulu says happened. She was with Tyrone at the cabin. Something went wrong. She doesn't specify what, which is its own kind of suspicious, but let's stay with her version, and she called 911. She rode with him to the hospital. She watched them declare him brain dead. She tried to get him transferred to another facility because she'd heard stories of people recovering brain function, of miracles happening, of medicine getting it wrong. She called the city about traffic cameras because she wanted footage, wanted proof, wanted something that could explain how this happened. She asked the police what happened. She was in shock. She was trying to save him. And when it became clear he couldn't be saved, she told his mother she was going back to the cabin to get their things because what else was she supposed to do? Sit in a hospital room staring at a body that used to be the person she loved? Sometimes the practical task is the only thing that keeps you from completely falling apart. But here's where Lulu's narrative runs into problems. She says she told Natalie everything, answered every question, gave the full timeline, but she won't give that same timeline publicly. Won't specify what something went wrong actually means. Won't explain the injuries beyond saying it wasn't a Hennessy bottle to the back of the head like Aunt Natasha claimed. Lulu says the Justice for DRO slogan was created to incriminate her, that it's attached to a false accusation, that she can't say those words because it would be agreeing with a lie. Both of these perspectives make sense. And that's the tragedy. Lulu's not wrong to protect herself from a mob that's already decided she's guilty. But the family's not wrong to find her silence suspicious when she's the only person who knows what happened in that cabin. This is the impossible position this case creates. Everyone's operating from their own traumatized logic, and none of it lines up into a coherent truth. Here's where things get complicated in a way that's going to make you uncomfortable, and I need you to stay with me, because this is the part that reveals how deep this family fracture goes. A young man, 21 years old, identifies himself as Tyrone's cousin from the family, goes on social media, and films himself burning every bridge he has left. And he doesn't do it because he thinks Lulu is innocent. He does it because he thinks his own family, specifically Aunt Natasha and cousin Natalie, are weaponizing Tyrone's death for attention, for views, for ego. And he thinks the real victim in all of this isn't just Tyrone. It's Tyrone's mother, Renee, who's being attacked and sidelined by her dead son's father's side of the family, who never showed up for Tyrone when he was alive but suddenly want to control the narrative now that he's dead. This cousin doesn't mince words. He calls out Natasha for talking badly about Renee, for acting like she's Tyrone's #1 fan when she never was, for using this tragedy to get social media attention instead of letting the mother grieve in peace. He calls out Natalie for going from supporter to accuser, for mentioning his name in rooms he's not in, for creating drama when she should be taking her kids to Sunday school. He even calls out his own mother, calls her a horrible mother, accuses her of manipulating systems, airs family secrets that have nothing to do with Tyrone's death, but everything to do with why this family was already broken before tragedy gave them an excuse to go to war. And here's what makes this so devastating. He's not wrong about the social media component. If you look at the timeline, Aunt Natasha became the face of Justice for DRO almost immediately. She's doing Facebook Lives, she's organizing, she's making this case public in ways that Renee never asked for. And Renee, the actual mother, is being criticized for being too quiet, for not performing her grief loudly enough, for not joining the campaign her son's aunt is running. So this 21-year-old cousin watches his grandmother, Tyrone's mother, get torn apart online by Tyrone's father's family, and he snaps. He films himself on a Sunday afternoon committing family murder. Not literally, but the kind of family murder where you say the things that can never be unsaid, where you expose the dysfunction everyone pretended didn't exist, where you choose one side so definitively that everyone on the other side becomes dead to you forever. The question is, does he have a point? Is Aunt Natasha performing grief for an audience? Or is she just a woman who loved her nephew and is fighting for him the only way she knows how in 2024, which is making noise online until someone listens? Is cousin Natalie a traitor who turned on Lulu for clout? Or is she a family member who initially wanted to believe the best and then saw evidence or heard details that changed her mind? Is Renee's silence dignity or complicity? Is the 21-year-old cousin brave for defending his grandmother or cruel for airing family trauma in the middle of an unsolved death? I don't have answers. I have questions that should make you think about your own family, your own fault lines, your own version of the aunt who makes everything about herself, and the cousin who can't let anything go, and the mother who just wants peace, and the best friend who gets caught in the crossfire. Because this case isn't really about Lulu versus the Davis family. It's about what happens when grief doesn't come with instructions, and everyone's coping mechanism conflicts with everyone else's need for answers. Let's talk about what we actually know, the facts that no one disputes. Tyrone Davis Jr. went to a cabin in Gainesville, Florida, with his girlfriend Lulu sometime around Christmas 2024. Something happened at that cabin. 911 was called. Tyrone was transported to a hospital with injuries severe enough that doctors declared him brain dead. He died days later without regaining consciousness. Lulu was present. Lulu called for help. Lulu stayed at the hospital until she left to get their belongings from the cabin. Those are facts. Everything else is interpretation, speculation, and family members filling in blanks with their own fears and biases and desperate need for someone to blame, because random tragedy is unbearable, but malicious tragedy at least gives you a target for your rage. What we don't know, what actually happened at that cabin? Did Tyrone fall? Was there a fight? Was there an accident that has an explanation so mundane it feels offensive given how much suffering it caused? Was there foul play that Lulu is hiding? The family wants to believe it's the latter because if it's the former, if this was just a stupid accident, a slip on wet tile, a fall downstairs, a freak medical emergency, then there's no one to punish and rage needs somewhere to go. So the rage goes toward Lulu because she was there, and she's still alive, and she's not grieving the way they think she should be grieving. And maybe they're right. Maybe her silence is suspicious. Or maybe her silence is survival because she knows that no matter what she says, no matter how much truth she tells, this family has already decided she's guilty and the internet has already written its verdict. Jason, the best friend, says something that stays with me. The only person who can give us answers is Lulu. And she ain't saying nothing.
And he's right.
But what he doesn't acknowledge is that Lulu did say something. She gave a detailed statement. She talked to Natalie. She explained herself multiple times. It's just that the answers she's giving aren't satisfying. They don't explain enough. They leave too much room for doubt. And in that space between what Lulu says happened and what the family wants to believe happened, conspiracy theories grow like weeds. There's a version of this story where Lulu is a murderer who got away with it. There's a version where she's a traumatized girlfriend watching the man she loved die and then getting destroyed by his family for surviving him. There's a version where something happened that wasn't quite murder, but wasn't quite innocent either. A fight that turned physical, an accident born of rage, a moment that both of them would take back if they could, but only one of them lived long enough to regret it. And there's a version where none of this matters because Tyrone is still dead and the war between his mother's side and his father's side is just a distraction from the fact that a 35-year-old man is gone and everyone who loved him is now weaponizing that love against each other. Here's what I can't stop thinking about. Renee, Tyrone's mother, goes on Facebook Live and says something that breaks my heart. She says, "I ain't the auntie, I'm the mama." And the way she says it, it's not loud, it's not aggressive, it's just a statement of fact that carries the weight of every mother who's ever had to defend her right to grieve her own child. She's saying, "My son came out of my body, I carried him for 9 months, I had a C-section to bring him into this world, and nobody gets to tell me how to mourn him. Not his aunt, not the internet, not the people who are using his death as content." She says she's going to be loud about justice for DRO, but she also says she wasn't there, Lulu wasn't there in her presence. Only DRO, Lulu, and God know what happened, so she's not going to point fingers without evidence. That's dignity. That's restraint. That's a mother choosing not to destroy someone else's child without proof, even though destroying Lulu would feel good, even though the mob would cheer for it, even though it would give her grief somewhere to land besides her own chest. And for that restraint, for that refusal to perform her grief the way the internet demands, she gets criticized, gets called complicit, gets attacked by her own family for not being angry enough in public. Meanwhile, And Natasha is doing the opposite. She's making this case as loud as possible, turning Tyrone's death into a movement, and getting praised for it by strangers who think volume equals love. And maybe it does. Maybe Natasha's way of honoring Tyrone is making sure the world doesn't forget him. Maybe Renee's way of honoring Tyrone is protecting his dignity even in death, not letting his final moments become a spectacle. Both women love Tyrone. Both women are destroyed by his loss. But their grief languages are so incompatible that they've become enemies, and Tyrone's death is the battlefield. And Jason's caught between them. Loyal to Tyrone, which means loyal to Renee because she's Tyrone's mother, but also desperate for answers, which means he understands why Natasha is pushing so hard. He doesn't think he was involved with Lulu, doesn't think he'd ever betray Tyrone that way, and he's hurt that anyone would suggest it. He says Tyrone would never keep around a friend who'd play him like that, would never tolerate disrespect, pulled a gun at his own surprise party because he didn't like things he couldn't control. This is Jason's way of saying, you didn't know Tyrone like I knew him, and if you did, you'd know that the accusations against me are impossible. But here's the thing about grief. It makes people paranoid. It makes them see conspiracy, where there's just chaos. It makes them need a villain because villains can be punished, but random tragedy just has to be endured. So even Jason, with his airtight alibi and his 15 years of friendship and his genuine devastation, becomes suspect in some people's minds. Because he was at the hospital. Because Renee picked him up. Because Lulu mentioned a close friend being there. And in the mathematics of conspiracy, proximity plus silence equals guilt. Let me take you inside the mind of someone watching this case from the outside, someone scrolling through Facebook Lives and Instagram statements and trying to figure out what's true. You see Lulu's polished statement and think either she's innocent and eloquent or she's guilty and calculating. You see Renee's restraint and think either she's dignified or she knows something. You see Natasha's volume and think either she's fighting for justice or performing for attention. You see Jason's defense and think either he's a loyal friend wrongly accused or he's a guilty party trying to get ahead of the narrative. You see the 21-year-old cousin destroying his family and think either he's brave for speaking truth or cruel for airing dysfunction. And every interpretation makes sense depending on what you want to believe. That's the poison of cases like this, they're Rorschach tests. You see what you're predisposed to see. If you distrust women, you see Lulu as guilty. If you distrust social media activism, you see Natasha as performative. If you distrust family dysfunction, you see the cousin as a troublemaker. If you distrust the justice system, you see Renee's patience as naive. We bring our own biases to other people's tragedies and call it analysis. But here's what we're missing while we're doing that. Tyrone Davis Jr. is dead. A 35-year-old man who loved his friends, who showed up when it mattered, who pulled a gun at a surprise party because he couldn't handle unexpected joy, who made his best friend feel less alone in the world. He's gone. And the people fighting over his memory are so busy being right that they've forgotten to be human to each other. The investigation is ongoing. Police haven't made an arrest, haven't publicly named a suspect, haven't said whether they're treating this as an accident or a homicide. And in that vacuum of official information, social media filled in the gaps with speculation that turned into accusation that turned into fact in the minds of people who needed answers more than they needed accuracy. This is what we do now. We crowdsource justice, we trial by hashtag, we convict in comment sections because waiting for actual evidence feels like letting someone get away with something. And maybe Lulu did do something. Maybe there's evidence we don't know about. Maybe the police are building a case, and one day we'll get answers that make all of this fighting make sense. Or maybe this was a tragic accident and Lulu's silence isn't guilt but trauma, and the family's rage isn't about evidence, but about needing someone to blame, because grief without a target feels too big to carry. Both things could be true. One thing could be true. Neither could be true. We don't know. And that not knowing is the thing that's tearing this family apart. Jason says he made up so many scenarios in his head about what could have happened. That's what this case does to people. It forces you to imagine every possibility because the truth is being withheld and imagination is all you have left. Did Tyrone fall? Was he pushed? Was there a fight? A medical emergency? An accident so stupid it feels cruel that it took a life? We don't know. And Lulu, who does know, has decided that telling the public isn't her responsibility. That her grief is private. That she doesn't owe the internet an explanation just because they think her silence looks suspicious. And legally, she's right. Morally, ethically, I don't know. If you were there when someone died and their family is begging for answers and you have those answers, do you have an obligation to share them even if it means subjecting yourself to more scrutiny, more accusation, more pain? Or do you have the right to protect yourself and let the investigation handle it even if that means the family suffers in uncertainty? These are the questions this case asks, and there's no good answer. Here's what haunts me about this case, and it's not the mystery of what happened at that cabin. Investigations eventually conclude. Evidence eventually surfaces. Truth eventually finds a way to the surface, even when people try to bury it. What haunts me is the irreparable damage this has done to everyone who loved Tyrone. Jason lost his best friend, and then lost the family that came with that friendship. Renee lost her son, and then got attacked by her son's father's family for not grieving correctly. Natasha is fighting for her nephew and alienating her nephew's mother in the process. Natalie went from supporter to skeptic, and now has to live with knowing she contributed to Lulu's demonization whether Lulu deserves it or not. The 21-year-old cousin destroyed his relationship with half his family on camera and can never take those words back. And Lulu, whether she's guilty or innocent, has been tried and convicted by the internet and will carry that for the rest of her life. Tyrone's death didn't just take Tyrone. It took everyone's ability to trust each other. It took Jason's found family. It took Renee's peace. It took Natasha's relationship with her nephew's mother. It took Lulu's future, guilty or not. And for what? For a hashtag? For Facebook Live views? For the satisfaction of being right in a fight that has no winners? Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Even if we get answers, even if police make an arrest or declare it an accident, even if Lulu confesses or is exonerated, it won't heal this family. The words have been said. The accusations have been made. The 21-year-old cousin called his aunt a liar on camera. Natasha implied Renee's silence means complicity. Renee said the family is weaponizing her son's death. Jason got accused of betraying his best friend. These wounds don't close just because a medical examiner files a report. This case is a reminder that the second death happens after the funeral. It's when everyone who loved the person who died stops loving each other. When grief turns into civil war. When the need to be right becomes more important than the need to heal together. And social media accelerates that second death because it gives everyone an audience for their pain, a platform for their accusations, a way to make their private grief into public spectacle. I'm not going to tell you what to believe about Lulu. I don't know what happened in that cabin. Neither do you. Neither does anyone watching this video or reading the Facebook posts or commenting on the Instagram lives. We're all just spectators turning someone else's tragedy into our entertainment, our mystery to solve, our chance to play detective from the safety of our phones. But I will tell you this, if Tyrone Davis Jr. could see what his death has done to the people who loved him, the way it's turned his mother against his aunt, his best friend into a suspect, his girlfriend into a villain, his cousin into a family destroyer, I don't think he'd want justice anymore. I think he'd want peace. I think he'd want the people who made him feel less alone to stop making each other feel more alone. I think he'd want his mother to be able to grieve without being attacked. His best friend to be able to mourn without being accused. His girlfriend to be able to heal whether she's guilty or innocent. Because here's what nobody's talking about. Even if Lulu did something, even if there was foul play, even if she's responsible, she still lost someone she loved. Guilt doesn't erase grief. You can be the reason someone died and still be destroyed by their absence. Human beings are complicated like that. We contain multitudes, contradictions, the capacity to love someone and hurt them in the same breath. And if Lulu didn't do anything, if this was truly an accident or a medical emergency, or something that has an explanation that doesn't involve malice, then she's experiencing a trauma most of us can't imagine. She watched someone she loved die. She called for help. She tried to save him. And her reward is being hunted by the internet, suspected by his family, accused of murder by strangers who've never met her and never will. Both versions of this story are unbearable. And we don't know which one is true. So here's my question for you, and I want you to actually think about it instead of just scrolling to the next video. At what point does the fight for justice become another kind of injustice? When does the need for answers turn into a weapon that causes more harm than the original tragedy? Where's the line between holding someone accountable and destroying them without proof? And when does grief stop being about the person who died and start being about the people left behind performing their pain for an audience that doesn't actually care? Leave your answer in the comments, but before you do, ask yourself, if Tyrone could read what you're about to write, would he recognize the person writing it as someone who actually loved him? Or would he see a stranger using his death as an excuse to feel righteous? This case stays with me because it's not a mystery with a clean solution. It's a tragedy with only losers. Tyrone lost his life. His family lost each other. And all of us watching this unfold from the outside, we lost the ability to sit with uncertainty without turning it into a witch hunt. If this case moved you, if it made you think about your own family dynamics, or the way you engage with true crime content, or the difference between seeking justice and seeking blood, hit the like button. Subscribe for cases that don't give you easy answers, because life doesn't give you easy answers, and pretending otherwise is disrespectful to the people living through these tragedies. And if you take anything away from this, let it be this. Tyrone Davis Jr. was a real person who made his friends feel loved and safe and seen. He wasn't a hashtag. He wasn't a mystery to solve. He was someone's son, someone's best friend, someone's future. And somewhere in the fight over who gets to control his narrative, we forgot that the only narrative that matters is the one he lived before tragedy turned him into content. Justice for DRO shouldn't mean war between the people who loved him. It should mean honoring the way he lived by trying to love each other the way he loved them. And we're failing at that. All of us. There's a moment in every unsolved case where the absence of answers becomes its own kind of evidence. Where silence stops being a right and starts being interpreted as guilt. Where the people left behind stop asking what happened and start demanding, what are you hiding? And in the 39 days since Tyrone Davis Jr. was declared brain dead in that Gainesville hospital, that moment has come and gone about 1,000 times. Every day without an arrest feels like proof of a cover-up. Every statement Lulu releases feels like deflection instead of explanation. Every time Renee asks for peace instead of vengeance, it reads as suspicious instead of maternal. The absence of answers has created a vacuum so powerful that people are filling it with whatever narrative best satisfies their need to understand how a 35-year-old man went to a cabin for Christmas and came back in a casket. We've all felt it. That desperate need to make sense of senseless tragedy. That psychological itch that can't be scratched until someone explains how the impossible became real. For most people, that feeling passes once the investigation concludes, once the medical examiner releases findings, once time puts enough distance between the trauma and the present that you can function again. But what happens when the investigation doesn't conclude? When the medical examiner doesn't release findings? When the only people who know the truth have decided that truth is a private possession instead of a public offering? What happens when the itch becomes a wound, and the wound becomes an obsession, and the obsession becomes the only thing holding together people who have nothing left in common except their connection to someone who's dead? This case lives in that maddening space between what everyone knows and what no one can prove. Between Lulu's version of events that she shared with Natalie but won't share with the world, and the family's suspicion that her version is a carefully constructed lie designed to protect herself at the expense of Tyrone's memory. Between Jason's alibi that places him at a block party when Tyrone was dying, and the conspiracy theories that suggest alibis can be manufactured and loyalty can be bought. Between Renee's dignified silence that honors her son's privacy and Natasha's megaphone activism that demands the world pay attention until someone is held accountable. And the distance between these positions? It's the distance between a family that could have healed together and a family that will spend the rest of their lives as strangers united only by the ghost of someone they all claim to have loved most. December 26, 2024. The day after Christmas. The day after Tyrone's mother got the call that shattered her world into before and after. Jason posts a video from the block party, time-stamped, location tagged, surrounded by friends who can verify he was exactly where he said he was. This video becomes his shield, his proof, his defense against accusations that haven't even been made yet, but are coming like a storm he can feel in the air. He doesn't know it yet, but this single act of posting a Christmas party video is going to be the thing that saves his reputation and destroys his relationship with Tyrone's family. Because the same evidence that proves he wasn't at the cabin also proves that he was out celebrating while his best friend was dying. And Grief doesn't care about logistics. Grief doesn't care that Jason didn't know. Grief looks at that video and sees a man dancing while Tyrone was taking his last breaths, and no amount of rational explanation can compete with that emotional math. Think about the cruelty of that position. You post a video having fun with friends because it's Christmas and you're allowed to have joy. Hours later, you find out your best friend is brain dead. Days later, that same video of you having joy becomes evidence in a murder conspiracy theory. Weeks later, you're on Instagram Live defending yourself to strangers who think your alibi is too convenient, your grief is too performative, your loyalty is too questionable. Jason didn't just lose Tyrone. He lost the right to have been happy on December 25th, 2024. That video, that innocent, thoughtless video, became a crime scene photograph in an investigation that exists only in the minds of people who need someone to blame. And here's where it gets darker. Jason says Renee picked him up Sunday morning, drove to his house. He got in the car. They went to Gainesville together. Simple, straightforward. The act of a mother bringing her son's best friend to say goodbye. But in the conspiracy version of this story, that car ride becomes evidence of collusion. Why did Renee pick up Jason but not call Natasha? Why did she bring Tyrone's best friend but not his father's side of the family? Why did she create this inner circle of people who got to see Tyrone in the hospital while everyone else had to wait for information that never came? The innocent answer is that Renee was in shock, made decisions based on who she could reach in that moment, brought the person she knew Tyrone would want there. The suspicious answer is that Renee was controlling the narrative from the beginning, keeping certain people out to protect Lulu or protect herself or protect some secret about what really happened that the father's side of the family can't be trusted to keep. Both answers fit the facts. Neither can be disproven. And in that ambiguity, families fracture. Let me tell you about the hospital room because this is where the war really started even though nobody knew it yet. Tyrone is brain dead. Machines are keeping his body alive, but he's already gone. Renee is there. Jason is there. Tyrone's sisters are there. And Lulu is there, talking to Renee, talking to the sisters, but according to Jason, not saying a single word to him. Not acknowledging his presence, not thanking him for coming, not making eye contact. And then she announces she's leaving to get their things from the cabin.
Just like that.
In the middle of a death vigil, she leaves. And depending on who you ask, this is either the most normal response to an abnormal situation or the most incriminating behavior she could possibly display. Here's what the innocent interpretation looks like. Lulu is in shock. The love of her life is dying, and there's nothing she can do about it. She can't process it, can't sit with it, can't stare at his body, and accept that he's leaving. So she latches onto a task, get the things from the cabin, return the rental, handle the logistics that feel manageable because the emotional reality is too big. She's not fleeing the scene. She's not hiding evidence. She's just a traumatized woman doing the only thing her brain can handle in that moment, which is putting one foot in front of the other and completing a to-do list because grief doesn't come with instructions and everyone copes differently. Here's what the suspicious interpretation looks like. Lulu knows what happened at that cabin. Knows there's something there that can't be there when the investigation gets serious. Maybe it's physical evidence of a fight. Maybe it's something she said in a panic call to someone else. Maybe it's text messages or photos or a journal entry or something that contradicts whatever story she's planning to tell. So she uses the cover of getting their things to go back and clean up, stage the scene, remove anything incriminating. She doesn't talk to Jason because Jason is Tyrone's best friend, and if anyone can see through her performance, it's him. She focuses on Renee because mothers are easier to manipulate with grief, with tears, with the shared experience of being a woman who loved Tyrone. And then she drives back to that cabin alone, with hours to do whatever she needs to do before anyone thinks to stop her. I don't know which version is true. But I know that the second interpretation exists in the minds of thousands of people who've decided Lulu is guilty, and once that interpretation takes root, everything she does becomes evidence of guilt. She releases a statement, guilty person trying to control the narrative. She stays silent, guilty person hiding the truth. She grieves publicly, performance. She grieves privately, suspicious. She cooperates with police, trying to look innocent. She lawyers up, obviously guilty. There is no action Lulu can take that won't be interpreted as proof of guilt by people who've already decided she's responsible. This is what trial by social media looks like. It's not about evidence. It's about vibes, about narrative coherence, about whether someone seems like the kind of person who could do something terrible. And Lulu, by virtue of being the only person present when Tyrone died, by virtue of leaving that hospital to return to the cabin, by virtue of not screaming, "Justice for DRO," loudly enough for the internet's taste, she seems guilty. Not because there's evidence, because her behavior doesn't match what people think innocent grief should look like. But here's what we forget. Innocent people don't always act innocent. Trauma does weird things to human behavior. People laugh at funerals. People go catatonic during emergencies. People make decisions that look calculated in hindsight but were actually just panic responses to situations their brains couldn't process. Lulu leaving that hospital to get their things could be the most normal trauma response in the world. Or it could be the act of someone destroying evidence. We don't know. And our not knowing has turned her into whatever we need her to be to make this story make sense. Meanwhile, Jason is having his own crisis. He's on Instagram Live trying to explain that no, he wasn't at the cabin, no, he didn't drive Lulu anywhere, no. He doesn't know anything beyond what everyone else knows, which is that his best friend is dead, and the only person with answers isn't talking. And he's getting emotional because he's not the kind of friend who knows how to navigate social media warfare. He says it himself. "I'm the friend Tyrone called when it's time to handle business, not when it's time to do interviews." He's street, not social media. He knows how to show up, not how to defend himself to an audience that's already decided he's lying. And you can hear the hurt in his voice when he talks about being cut off by Renee. "They picked me up and brought me there, and now they won't even talk to me." He doesn't understand how he went from trusted enough to be in that hospital room to too suspicious to deserve a phone call. And the answer is simple. Renee is being pressured by the other side of the family. Natasha and Natalie are asking questions. Why did you bring Jason, but not us? Why was he there? What's his relationship with Lulu? Are you sure you can trust him? And rather than defend Jason, rather than stand by the decision she made in her worst moment, Renee cuts him off. Because it's easier to lose Jason than to fight with her dead son's father's family. Because Jason is just a friend, but Natasha is family, and family pressure is a weight that flattens everything in its path. So Jason loses Tyrone, and then loses Tyrone's family, and then has to defend himself against murder conspiracy theories to strangers on the internet who will never believe him no matter what evidence he provides. And his crime? Answering the phone when Renee called. Getting in the car when she picked him up. Being the kind of friend who shows up without asking questions, because that's what loyalty looks like. This is the collateral damage of unsolved cases. The people on the periphery who get pulled into the vortex and destroyed not because they did anything wrong, but because they were close enough to be convenient suspects when the real answers aren't forthcoming. Now, let's talk about what Lulu actually said in her statement, because I need you to hear it without the filter of conspiracy theories. She said she told Natalie everything while she was still in Gainesville, had a full conversation, answered every question, gave the timeline from start to finish. And Natalie, according to Lulu, ended that call by saying she needed time to process and would call back. That's not the behavior of someone who just heard a confession or caught someone in a lie. That's the behavior of someone who heard a tragic story and needed space to absorb it. So what changed between that call and now? What shifted in Natalie's mind that turned her from supporter to skeptic? The answer is probably simple: social media. Family pressure. The court of public opinion that decided Lulu was guilty and made anyone who defended her complicit. Natalie probably did believe Lulu initially. Probably heard the story and thought this is a horrible accident and this poor woman is traumatized. But then the hashtags started. The Facebook Lives began. And Natasha started demanding justice. The internet started calling Lulu a murderer. And Natalie had to make a choice: stick with the woman her family is crucifying, or join the family and let Lulu become the villain. And she chose family. Not because she discovered new evidence, because the social cost of defending Lulu became too high. This is what we do to people in the digital age. We don't give them space to change their minds based on evidence. We demand they choose sides immediately and stick with that choice forever, or be labeled a traitor. Natalie can't say, "I initially believed Lulu, but now I have doubts," without being attacked for initially believing her. She can't say, "I still think it might have been an accident, but I understand why the family is suspicious," without being attacked for not being suspicious enough. She has to be all in on one narrative, or she becomes suspect herself. So she goes all in on justice for DRO because that's the safe position, the one that doesn't make her a target, the one that lets her grieve without being questioned. But Lulu sees that shift and interprets it as betrayal. And she's not wrong. Natalie did betray her. Not maliciously, but through the simple act of choosing self-preservation over loyalty to the truth of that initial conversation. And now both women are locked in this position where neither can back down without losing face, without admitting they were wrong, without opening themselves up to the judgment of thousands of strangers who've been following this case like it's entertainment instead of real people's real lives falling apart in real time. Here's where I need to talk about Aunt Natasha, because she's the most controversial figure in this entire mess, and depending on your perspective, she's either a hero or a villain. Natasha is loud. She's making Facebook Lives. She's organizing the Justice for DRO campaign. She's the public face of this family's grief and their demand for accountability. And she's being attacked for it by the 21-year-old cousin who says she's performing for attention, by people who think Renee should be the spokesperson, by anyone who thinks her volume is inappropriate or her methods are too aggressive or her motives are too self-serving. But here's the other side. Maybe Natasha is just doing what she thinks Tyrone would want. Maybe she knows that Renee is too devastated to fight, too dignified to make a scene, too private to turn her son's death into a public campaign. So Natasha steps up, takes the heat, becomes the lightning rod, makes noise because silence feels like surrender, and surrender feels like dishonoring Tyrone's memory. Maybe she's not performing. Maybe she's just the only one willing to fight in the way that might actually get results, which is making enough noise that the police can't ignore this case, that Lulu can't hide behind silence, that the world remembers Tyrone as someone whose death mattered. Or maybe she's exactly what the 21-year-old cousin says she is, a woman using her nephew's death to get attention, to feel important, to center herself in a tragedy that isn't about her. Maybe she's the aunt who was never that close to Tyrone when he was alive, but suddenly becomes his #1 fan when being his #1 fan comes with social media validation. Maybe her campaign isn't about justice. It's about ego, about winning a family power struggle, about making sure that Renee, the actual mother, doesn't get to control the narrative because Natasha has always resented Renee for reasons that predate Tyrone's death, and this is just the latest battlefield in a war that's been going on for years. Both versions could be true. One version could be true. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Natasha probably genuinely loved Tyrone and genuinely wants justice and also genuinely enjoys the attention and the power that comes with being the face of this campaign. Human beings are complicated. We contain multitudes. We can love someone and also weaponize that love for our own purposes. We can want justice and also want to be the hero of the story. These things aren't mutually exclusive. But the 21-year-old cousin, and let's call him what the family calls him. Let's use the name he uses even though it might not be his legal name, because that's how he identifies himself in his videos. This cousin sees Natasha's campaign and sees his grandmother Renee getting hurt by it. Sees Renee being criticized for being too quiet, too passive, too willing to wait for the police instead of demanding immediate answers. Sees Renee being treated like a suspect instead of a grieving mother because she won't join Natasha's crusade. And he snaps. The video he posts is brutal. Not physically violent, but emotionally devastating in the way that only family fights can be. He goes after Natasha with specificity that comes from years of stored grievances. brings up the time she invited family to church and then talked badly about them afterward, calls her a liar, calls her performative, says she was never Tyrone's #1 fan when he was alive, so she doesn't get to claim that title now that he's dead. Tells her to let the mother be the mother and the aunt be the aunt and stop trying to control a grief that doesn't belong to her. And then he goes after his own mother, calls her a horrible mother, accuses her of manipulating government systems, airs family secrets that have nothing to do with Tyrone's case, but everything to do with this family's dysfunction. He's not just defending Renee. He's burning down every relationship he has with his father's side of the family because he's decided they're all toxic, all clout-chasing, all using Tyrone's death for attention instead of actually grieving him. It's painful to watch. Not because he's wrong. I don't know if he's wrong. But because you can see the exact moment a 21-year-old kid decides he's done with his family forever. You can hear it in his voice when he says, "I'm standing on what I said, and I have one mouth to feed, and that's mine, and I wasn't at the funeral because I can't be around fake people." He's choosing isolation over participation in what he perceives as a circus. He's choosing his grandmother over his aunts and cousins and mother. And once those words are out, once that video is posted, there's no taking it back. He's committed family suicide. And whether he's right or wrong about Natasha's motives, he's going to live with the consequences of that choice for the rest of his life. Here's what makes this so tragic. He probably has a point. Natasha probably is being too loud, too aggressive, too performative. But she probably also has a point. Renee probably is being too quiet, too passive, too willing to let Lulu control the narrative. And neither woman is wrong. They're just grieving differently, fighting differently, honoring Tyrone differently. And instead of finding a way to coexist in their different approaches, they've turned it into a competition where only one of them gets to be right, and the other has to be the villain. And this 21-year-old cousin, with his brain that's still developing and his understanding of family dynamics that's been shaped by a lifetime of dysfunction, he's watching this competition destroy his grandmother, and he makes the choice to be her champion. Noble, right? Except his way of being her champion is to destroy everyone else. To air the family's dirty laundry. To make sure that if Natasha wants a public fight, she's going to get one that exposes all her hypocrisy and all her flaws and all the reasons she doesn't deserve to be the face of justice for DRO. But what he doesn't understand, what 21-year-olds never understand, is that you can't shame people into better behavior. You can't expose hypocrisy and expect the hypocrite to suddenly become genuine. All you can do is create more enemies, more resentment, more reasons for the family to never heal. And now this kid has ensured that Renee, the grandmother he was trying to protect, has even more family drama to navigate because her grandson just declared war on her dead son's father's entire side of the family. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and this kid just built a superhighway. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room that nobody wants to address directly. What if Lulu is telling the truth? What if this really was an accident, a tragic medical emergency, a fall or a slip or a seizure, or something that has a perfectly rational explanation that doesn't involve malice or violence or foul play? What if Lulu is exactly who she says she is, a traumatized girlfriend who lost the love of her life and is now being hunted by his family and the internet for a crime she didn't commit? If that's true, and we don't know if it's true, but if it is, then what's happening to her is a different kind of murder. The kind where your reputation dies, your future dies, your ability to grieve dies because you're too busy defending yourself to actually process your loss. She can't mourn Tyrone because she's being accused of killing him. She can't remember the good times because every memory is now evidence in a case that exists only in the court of public opinion. She can't move forward because the internet has decided she's guilty, and the internet never forgets, and the internet never forgives. And even if the police eventually clear her, even if the medical examiner rules it an accident, even if every piece of evidence points to her innocence, it won't matter. The damage is done. Google her name and you'll find Lulu Tyrone Davis murder for the rest of her life. Potential employers will see it. Future partners will see it. Her own children, if she ever has them, will see it. She'll be the woman who maybe killed her boyfriend. Emphasis on maybe, but that maybe is enough to stain her forever. This is the cost of trial by social media. We've decided we don't need evidence or due process or actual investigations. We just need a narrative that makes sense, a villain to hate, a campaign to join. And if we're wrong, well, we'll just move on to the next case, the next tragedy, the next opportunity to play detective. But the person we were wrong about, they don't get to move on. They get to live with the consequences of our collective need to solve mysteries that aren't ours to solve. But here's the other side, and I need to say this too. What if Lulu isn't telling the truth? What if something did happen at that cabin that she's responsible for, either through violence or through negligence or through some action that she knows makes her look guilty? What if her silence isn't about protecting her privacy, but about protecting herself from consequences she deserves? What if the family's suspicion isn't paranoia, but instinct, the kind of knowing that comes from loving someone and sensing when the story about their death doesn't add up? If that's true, then the family has every right to be loud, to demand answers, to make noise until someone pays attention. Because the alternative is that Tyrone's death gets ruled an accident, Lulu walks away without consequences, and his family has to live with knowing that someone got away with killing their son, their nephew, their cousin. And that kind of injustice, the kind where you know what happened but can't prove it, that destroys families in a different way. It turns grief into rage. It turns love into obsession. It makes every day a battle to be heard, to be believed, to make someone care enough to dig deeper. So who's right? The family demanding justice or Lulu demanding privacy? The answer is maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe the truth is so complicated that both sides have pieces of it, but neither has the whole picture. Maybe Lulu knows more than she's saying, but it's not what the family thinks. Maybe the family's suspicions are based on real inconsistencies, but they're interpreting those inconsistencies through the lens of grief instead of objectivity. Maybe this is a case where everyone is telling their truth, but those truths don't add up to a coherent whole because trauma fractures memory and perception and the ability to be reliable narrators of our own experiences. Here's what I know for certain. Tyrone Davis Jr. deserves better than this. He deserves a family that can honor his memory without destroying each other. He deserves a best friend who can grieve without being accused. He deserves a mother who can mourn in peace without being pressured to perform her grief for an audience. He deserves an aunt who can advocate for justice without being accused of clout chasing. He deserves a girlfriend who can either be held accountable if she's guilty or allowed to grieve if she's innocent, instead of existing in this limbo where she's guilty until proven innocent and maybe guilty even after being proven innocent. But Tyrone is dead, and the people fighting over his memory aren't fighting for him anymore. They're fighting for themselves, for their version of what justice looks like, for their right to grieve the way they need to grieve, for their ability to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. And in that fight, Tyrone gets lost. He becomes a hashtag instead of a human, a cause instead of a person, a debate instead of a son, a friend, a partner who made people feel loved and seen and safe. This is what we do to the dead. We turn them into whatever we need them to be to justify our behavior toward the living. Tyrone becomes the reason Natasha needs to be loud, the reason Renee needs to be quiet, the reason Lulu needs to defend herself, the reason Jason needs to prove his loyalty, the reason the 21-year-old cousin needs to destroy his family. Everyone is using Tyrone's death to justify their own actions, and nobody is asking what Tyrone would actually want. Here's my guess. Tyrone would want his mother to have peace, would want his best friend to feel supported instead of suspected, would want his family to stop fighting and start healing, would want whoever is responsible for his death to be held accountable, but through the legal system, not through social media mob justice, would want his name to be associated with how he lived instead of how he died, would want the people who loved him to love each other the way he loved them, completely, loyally, without condition. But that's not what's happening. And I don't know how to fix it, because this isn't a mystery that needs solving. It's a wound that needs healing, and healing requires things this family doesn't have right now. Trust, grace, time, and the willingness to sit with uncertainty instead of demanding answers that might not exist in the form they want them to exist in. The investigation continues. The police haven't arrested anyone, haven't named a suspect, haven't given the family the closure they're demanding. And in that vacuum, the war escalates.
More Facebook Lives.
More accusations. More family members going public with their version of events. More conspiracy theories about who is where, and who knew what, and who's lying, and who's protecting whom. And all of it is just noise. Just pain looking for somewhere to land. Just grief that doesn't know how to be anything other than rage, because rage feels more powerful than helplessness. So here's what I can't stop thinking about, and it's not what happened at that cabin. Investigations eventually conclude. Evidence eventually surfaces. Truth eventually emerges, even if it takes years. What haunts me is the damage that's been done while everyone waits for that truth. Jason will never get back his relationship with Renee. The 21-year-old cousin will never get back his relationship with his mother, his aunts, half his extended family. Lulu will never get back her reputation, even if she's innocent. Natasha will never get back her relationship with Renee. Renee will never get back the peace she should have been allowed to have while mourning her son. None of this can be undone. The words have been said. The accusations have been made. The bridges have been burned. And even when the truth finally comes out, it won't rebuild what's been destroyed. This case is a reminder that sometimes the real tragedy isn't what happened in a cabin in Gainesville. It's what happened afterward, in the living rooms and comment sections and Instagram lives where people who loved the same person turned each other into enemies because they couldn't agree on how to grieve or who to blame or what justice should look like. Tyrone died once, but his family is dying 1,000 deaths, one accusation at a time, one Facebook live at a time, one broken relationship at a time. And nobody wins. Not even if Lulu is arrested. Not even if she's exonerated. Because the cost of getting to that answer has already bankrupted everyone involved. And we, all of us watching this from the outside, consuming this family's pain like it's entertainment, we're complicit. We're feeding the algorithm that rewards conflict. We're leaving comments that fuel the fire. We're choosing sides in a war that isn't ours to fight. We're treating real people's real tragedy like it's a puzzle to solve instead of a wound to respect. And our engagement, our views, our shares, our hot takes, they're the oxygen keeping this fire burning. So here's my question for you, and I genuinely want you to think about it. At what point do we stop calling this seeking justice and start calling it what it really is, voyeurism dressed up as concern? At what point does our consumption of true crime content cross the line from education or awareness into exploitation? At what point do we acknowledge that our need to know what happened is less important than the family's need to grieve without an audience? Leave your answer in the comments. But before you do, I want you to imagine that Tyrone's mother might read what you write. That his best friend might read it. That Lulu might read it, guilty or innocent. Would you still write it? Would you still say what you're about to say if you had to say it to their faces instead of hiding behind a screen name? This case will stay with me long after the truth comes out, whatever that truth is. Not because of the mystery, because of the reminder that the worst thing that can happen to you isn't always the thing that kills you. Sometimes it's the thing that kills everyone you loved while you're gone, leaving them to fight over your memory like dogs fighting over a bone. And somewhere, if consciousness survives death, Tyrone is watching the people he loved destroy each other in his name. And I think that might be worse than whatever happened at that cabin. If this made you think, if it made you uncomfortable, if it made you question your own relationship with true crime content, hit the like button. Subscribe for cases that don't give you easy villains or satisfying conclusions, because life is messy and people are complicated, and sometimes there are no good answers, only better questions. Justice for Tyrone shouldn't mean war. It should mean peace. And until his family can find that peace, he doesn't have justice. He just has a hashtag. And he deserved so much more.